Hey everyone, welcome to Marvel Time, issue number, 72. That's a lot. That's a lot of issues.
Yep, the extra special $10.75 is coming up.
Yeah, well, I mean, we had a seemingly $10 comic today.
Not seemingly, it was a $10 comic.
Okay, I didn't check the price, so I didn't want to throw that out there. But yeah, let's just say I totally forgot that we had Avengers number 750 and realized pretty late in the day that I had an 84-page comic to read. So we'll get to that in just a bit here. But let's jump into our first comic we're going to discuss today, and that is Death of Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, number 1, but one and only. So what did you think of this one?
First of all, I think it's a little offensive that they called it Death of Doctor Strange Spider-Man when Black Cat has just as significant a role in this. I thought it was fun. I mean, it's a silly sort of like laundry list of things that Doctor Strange expects Spider-Man to do that somehow like all comes into play exactly at the same time, conveniently. Like, I mean, it's not a take it serious comic, but it's, you don't get to see Ben and Felicia Hardy a lot. So, interacting together. So I liked it. I mean, it didn't move this Doctor Strange story forward, I think, in a big way, but, it's a tie-in issue, and as it should.
Yeah, you mentioned, you don't get to see these two characters, get together too often, and I really, really enjoyed their dynamic to the point where this is going to be my pick of the week, actually. I really liked this one. This is the first one I read today, and kind of just got off to a great start with the comics this week. And we'll talk, about one of the other issues that is sort of the shoo-in for pick of the week, but like feels unfair. Like it's not really a one comic. So we'll talk about that later. But I really, really like this one. I mean, I love the dynamic between Ben and Felicia. I thought, the whole like you're not really Spider-Man thing was felt perfect for the character and helped to move along Ben Reilly's story as well. Like you said, not progressing the Death of Doctor Strange story, but it does, further these characters in the Spider-Man story that's been ongoing. So I really like that. There are also some appearances from other characters in this. I'm going to love anything where Moon Knight pops up, so that's always fun. And also, I love a comic that lets me know that the Central Park Dragon enjoys hot dogs. That's good to know for, any future situations that might arise.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Let's get into a very topical character. We had Phoenix Song Echo number 2. We've talked about this with Echo popping up in the MCU and sort of being introduced to most Marvel fans. We are in a very different point of this character's story in the comics, where she is now the Phoenix.
Hawkeye featuring the street level Phoenix of Echo with the Phoenix Force.
Yeah, so this is a very different version of the character from what people are seeing on TV right now. But I really liked this one. I thought I'm a sucker for any time they introduce a villain that is in sort of a creepy way that adds a little bit of a horror vibe to it. So I really like that. There's a little bit of a time travel element going on here. I guess not even really a little bit anymore. They're fully time traveling at this point, although don't fully understand where they're going with that. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see with where this story progresses. But yeah, I like this one a lot. This was kept a strong lineup of comics going today. What do you think?
Yeah, I feel like we talked before about since the pandemic, the Marvel Universe kind of felt fragmented, just because you had books coming out way later than they used to, and all these other things. But I feel like now with Avengers and what's going on with Spider-Man and the Phoenix, and it's all kind of meshing together very nicely. And I felt like this story, that this isn't the only time Echo or Phoenix or whatever is brought up this week, and it all kind of makes sense together, and I like that. And I like the story too. I did love the setup of the villain. I thought that was pretty cool. Um, and I didn't have a lot of history of Echo before the Phoenix Enter the Phoenix arc in Avengers a little bit ago, but I'm enjoying seeing where this is going. Obviously, this isn't a book you pick up and be like, oh, I want more of Echo as seen in Hawkeye. Like that's not where she's at, as you said, but it doesn't mean it's not a good comic.
Yeah, if you want Echo's backstory, I can recommend some Daredevil comics from quite a few years ago. Do not jump into Phoenix Song if you're looking for that. Let's jump into our next one, which is X-Men Trial of Magneto #4. This has been one that we have been following along, but it feels like forever between issues for this story. We've read some other X-Men stuff or just other stuff that's happening with mutants in general. And you've mentioned it several times, like, all this other stuff is happening, but where is the Trial of Magneto tying into all of this? So what do you think about this issue?
Yeah, whenever I talk about cohesiveness, the X universe doesn't have that. Okay. So it's fine. I'm ready I'm ready for the next era of Krakoa or whatever we're doing, because I just don't know where my focus is supposed to be. And it's not like, usually you have the main title and there's other things happening along the way. Like everything the X is doing seems like it's supposed to be a big deal, but you can't have all these big deals happening at the same time. It just gets confusing. And,
right.
It's just bad storytelling. So, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I totally agree. It's hard to keep tabs on everything that's going on with the X-Men or mutants in general. That being said, I did like this particular issue, and I like this story if you were to piece it all together. It's just that it's so spread out with other stuff happening throughout it. But if you were to take this away from everything else and hold it on its own, I think it's a story I would revisit in the future. Scarlet Witch has always been a fascinating character, and there's always so much going on within her mind, but it also, that affects the world around her at the same time. So it's always interesting to see. I also like that they managed to take something so crazy. This is a character about a witch with a psychotic break that is causing the world around her, all sorts of craziness. And yet they ground this in a way that you're seeing like the public opinion of this character, where people have this relationship with her and they want to protect her, and yet she's hurting so many people, so that the public opinion is just so overwhelming against her. So I like that there's they're taking this crazy story and putting it into a real world so you can relate to it in some aspect at least. So really enjoyed that. I'm interested to see where it goes. They left us on a cliffhanger, which is great, but also frustrating because who knows when we see this pick up again. We know there are some other tie-in issues coming up, but again, there's just so much else going on that I don't know when we're going to jump back into this story. So it's a little bit frustrating, but I did enjoy it.
Fair.
So let's jump into the Amazing Spider-Man #80 Legacy Beyond .1. I don't know.
No, this isn't a dot issue. This is the main title.
Yeah, I had to comment on the Beyond numbering, but so we left off with Ben Reilly being attacked by Kraven, and we both were really excited about Kraven appearing at the end of that issue. What did you think about this whole fight here?
It's non-traditional, but I thought it was really interesting because, Ben, obviously in the storytelling, we've had Ben Reilly struggle with his identity, but we haven't had it in the sort of world yet where, he has Peter's memories, but he's not Peter. And, and I think doing that through psychedelic darts is a good way to have that storytelling device. It's not so much about Kraven, as Kraven was a plot point to kind of get internal into where Ben is. And I mean, one of the great last pages, well, not last pages of the main storyline here. Getting you excited for where this is headed. So I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I liked it for all of those reasons that you mentioned too. I like that they are setting up this other story that where they're going with the Beyond. And I've been a fan of the Beyond story from the beginning of it. I like where they're going with this, but also you mentioned that's the end of the main story, and we get a little bonus couple of pages at the end that also make things really interesting. And there are some really interesting visuals, as Kyle points out. This is a little bit of a weird cover for sure. And then you read it and you realize, like you mentioned, he's on those psychedelic darts. So he's been poisoned and hallucinating, which is usually the case with Kraven. The only thing that I wasn't a fan of is, how excited we got for Kraven in the last one. And Kraven was more so just a plot point to just sort of, push Ben Reilly's story along as opposed to really being involved, which was unfortunate. I would have liked to see some more of Kraven, and maybe we will. He pops up, now and again. So we'll see. But
yeah, they definitely kind of teased, I think, that he will return sooner rather than later. Speaking of returning, there's another villain that seems to be returning, which is kind of cool too.
Yes, yeah, that's like this leaves us with not one but two cliffhangers, and I'm excited for both of them. And they could be spinning into two different series depending on how soon they play out. I guess we'll see where that goes, but definitely interesting. Not my favorite of this Beyond arc for Spider-Man with Ben Reilly, but overall enjoyable. And that brings us to our final issue of the week, Avengers number 50, Legacy number 750, which again is 84 pages long and features every character and story arc you've ever heard of. So I assume this is going to be your pick of the week.
Yes, it has to be based on this last one. But yeah, and this is where I started. And it's long, but it's so much fun.
Yeah.
It just, and it brings together so many plot points. It wraps up this World War She-Hulk device that we've been kind of struggling with for a little bit. But, also kind of goes back to that, was it 10,000 BC Avengers? Mm-hmm. You have every villain you could possibly dream of. And, expanding the Avengers roster, is always like a fun kind of moment. And so a lot of great characters, a lot of great interaction. I feel like this is building to something huge, and I hope it doesn't disappoint. Like I think I was disappointed with how quickly the Phoenix story kind of just finished up. And Maya's the Phoenix, but okay, I kind of felt like that should have been a bigger deal. But then I hope that this leads into some big story, because it's just taking plot points from everywhere, and I think that's cool.
Yeah. You say you hope it leads into something big. I feel like it's leading into some things big. Like there are a lot of different stories that are very barely connected, that are just different plot points for different Avengers characters, different villains, taking place at different times. So this is obviously this. So they set it up that this is leading into the Avengers Forever story that we've talked about. That was announced when they did that whole timeline for early, or actually late this year into early 2022. So we know we're getting into that. I have to say my favorite character of this issue, given that we've had 100 of them, but the Orb being a part of this was fantastic and hilarious. So I really loved him. If you're not familiar with the Orb, you're a normal human being. You shouldn't be familiar with the Orb. He's a very obscure character, but I love what they do with him in this issue.
And it's funny because that Infinity series they did with Nick Fury, and they kind of brought it back to Original Sin, the Original Sin story.
Yeah,
and then to go back, I feel like finally Original Sin's getting its due, because that teased up a lot of stuff that never kind of got paid off. And I think it's kind of cool that some of those things are actually coming to play.
Yeah, and I will say I think they kind of gave us abrupt ending to World War She-Hulk, although at least they kind of spun out of that a little bit to give us a little bit more to build off of that story in a few different ways, because again, this is an 84-page comic, and I would say there's 8 to 10 different stories happening here.
I will say, I feel like World War She-Hulk was vamping to get to this. And I feel like they had instructions like, okay, She-Hulk series is coming up. We need to revert Jen to like, something more reasonable.
Yeah.
And so they found a way to kind of wait until, the market was in a place where a story like this could happen, because we talked about the sort of logistical challenge they had in the past. I think it's this is the story that's kind of been leading out of everything else. Like, it felt like all those threads that were like, how come that didn't go anywhere? Like, they're starting to go somewhere. And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and not only with World War She-Hulk, because they pulled from that Phoenix story, as well as Heroes Reborn too, which that one, really caught me off guard. I did not see that coming at all. And there were several moments like that throughout this issue. So it's definitely something you want to pick up if you're an Avengers fan, if you've been reading comics over the past year, or obviously even more. So definitely a fun issue. So speaking of fun, let's jump into Hawkeye, and let's bring in our third member, Bekah. Hey, Bekah.
Hey, how are you guys?
We're good. We're exhausted from reading a lot of comics right now, but
it sounds like it.
Let's talk about Hawkeye, the third episode that premiered on Disney Plus today. I personally feel like this series is getting better with each episode so far. Do you guys agree with me?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I'm surprised, I shouldn't say surprised, but I'm enjoying this way more than I was anticipating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I totally, I expected to like it a lot, but, it's recency bias obviously comes into play, but I keep feeling like, okay, this is probably my favorite Disney Plus series Marvel has done yet. It just feels like that's the case with each new one that comes out. But so let's jump into this episode, which, to my surprise, started off with some background on Echo, mm-hmm. Which I really enjoyed. They showed us her childhood and everything she went through. They made some changes. And by the way, spoilers for this week's episode of Hawkeye. So if you haven't watched it yet, go back and watch that, and then come back and join us. But they made.
We'll still be here.
What was that?
We'll still be here.
Right. Yeah. We'll just keep vamping. We'll give you, what was it, 43 minutes? So they made changes to the character's story a bit. In the comics, her father does work for a certain crime boss, which I guess I can mention by name since they pretty much just threw him in our faces early in this episode. But,
Mephisto!
Right, yes, Mephisto. The New York crime boss known as Mephisto. Kingpin is her father's boss, and eventually actually kills her father himself. And then that eventually leads to Echo turning on Kingpin, and that sets her whole character arc. But she actually sees Ronan kill her father in this, which I thought was really interesting. I thought there was going to be some sort of, something blocking her view or something there, but no, we straight up see what happens there. So what did you guys think about the MCU's version of Echo? As we got to see like way more of her than I expected in this episode.
I thought it was a good amount, though. Like, I guess you have to think of how many characters over how many episodes and how much screen time to give everybody. But I did enjoy the amount of time we spent with her. I don't know anything about her comics version, so I have nothing against what they've done.
Ben, what'd you think?
I obviously they changed it, but they didn't like. They simplified it. They made it.
Yeah.
I think a little bit, made it fit the MCU. It's just like they do with a lot of things, and that's what they should do.
Right.
But it just makes you have so many questions about Kingpin, like, and these are all stupid questions. Like, one thing that I don't like about the MCU, and it's not MCU's fault, but it's like I have so many logistical questions whenever I see something like how's this going to fit in with that, or who's going to appear here. Like, all of that doesn't matter as long as the story's good. But like, there's this question about those Netflix shows and about whether those are MCU shows.
Right.
And part of me hopes no, and part of me hopes yes, and I just don't know what to think. And I'm curious to see. I'm curious to learn more about. I'm curious to find out more about when we'll learn more about the Kingpin. But the episode itself was fantastic, and it's frustrating that you spend a lot of this time wondering if, Thor from Adventures in Babysitting is going to show up.
That is sort of my problem, and this is totally a me problem, not an MCU problem. But right. It's just, I get excited about the movie because I want to see the post-credit scene, and it's like it's hard to be in the moment and enjoy the movie itself or the show itself without looking at the bigger picture and getting excited about the possibilities. Mephisto.
And that's why I almost have to watch everything twice now. It's like I watch it the first time and I'm just wondering what's going to happen, right? Yeah. Like, and you don't appreciate it or at least, and it's not its fault, but then I go back and enjoy the movie as itself, knowing what's happening.
Right.
And I don't have to worry about, what's going to play into whatever else anymore because I already know.
Yeah, or I'll catch myself often, they'll say something, they'll mention a name or something, and I'm like, I know that name, and then I spend the next 30 seconds thinking, where do I know that name from? Who is this character? And then I realize I missed a whole conversation, and so I catch that on the second watch through. But so yeah, there's a lot of moments like that. But I mean, I definitely, we talked about it last week. Benji, you brought up Kingpin, I think, when wondering if he was going to show up because it felt like that crime boss was needed here, and I expected the Kingpin to show up in this series, not in the first 5 minutes of the third episode, though. And we'll be fair, disclaimer here, we don't know for sure that's the Kingpin, but it's a big guy in a suit who is Echo's uncle. It's Kingpin. It's going to be him. It looks like a much bigger version of the character, too, which I thought was really cool, like different from the one we saw in Netflix's Daredevil. So I like that they're changing the character design a little bit.
Actually, I'm pretty sure it's just an astrophysicist.
I was going to say, I keep thinking about that, too. Who is this person? Oh, my goodness.
Kingpin is the astrophysicist. That would be a crazy twist on the character. Do we think, because they mentioned last week's episode, Tony sold Avengers Tower years ago. Do we think it's Wilson Fisk that bought Avengers Tower? Maybe it's Fisk Tower now?
I thought people were hoping that it was like Reed Richards or somebody, or am I putting too many different fan things together?
Oh, no, I mean, they all cross paths at some point. But that's just an interesting theory that's out there right now. I think that would be a cool connection if Avengers Tower now becomes Fisk Tower. But we'll see.
Well, there's the question too, because of that undermarket, that auction. Did they ever fully explain where all that stuff came from?
Well, does that tie into Spider-Man Homecoming with the moving day? Did they lose any stuff from that crazy experience?
The timing would be off with that because the Ronin suit would have come later on. I think this is stuff recovered from the wreckage after the fight with Thanos.
I think they said Avengers Compound, which to me is the other one. Not Avengers Tower, but the
right.
Porsche building in Georgia. Yeah.
So I am still very curious about this watch. I want to know what's going on there, with why that was what the Tracksuit Mafia was after, which I guess Kate didn't hear because they have a conversation about what was the Tracksuit Mafia after, and she has no idea. So they're trying to figure that out. I really want to know the significance of this watch. I kind of hope that it's just that, the Tracksuit Mafia is kind of dumb and they think there's an expensive watch that they can get and sell, and that's why they're after that, not realizing the value of the other things at that auction. But we'll see. We'll see where they go with that. So yeah, excited for Kingpin for sure. But one of the most exciting parts of this episode was that long chase sequence that we saw a lot of in that special look that we got on Disney Plus Day, but there was way more to it than just what we saw there too. Got to point out that the Challenger that Kate wants to take, but Clint, walks past and says, "We're not wrecking what year was it? 72 Challenger." That is almost exactly, if not the exact car that they use for this chase sequence in the comic, which I thought was so cool. They pulled that exact car out of the comic. Was really awesome. Same for a lot of the trick arrows that they use throughout, like the putty arrow. He actually has a line in the comic where he hits one of the Tracksuit Mafia with the putty arrow and says, "Putty arrow, bro." I kind of wish we had gotten that, but so yeah, that whole sequence was awesome. It was shot beautifully. It was taken from the comics in a lot of different ways, and just really, really enjoyed it. What else? I mean, it felt like a lot happened in this episode. I had to be the full Marvel nerd, and there's that scene. There's one of those typical scenes where you see Kate looking at the laptop and going through this database, and of course there's a list of names. So, well, there goes half hour of my time looking through names and seeing what their Marvel connection is. First name that pops up is Victoria Kafka, and that immediately triggered a memory for me. It was, Dr. Ashley Kafka is a character in the comics who works at Ravencroft Institute, the same institution that houses several of the most dangerous villains, including, Carnage and the Vulture and Norman Osborn for a stretch too. So like a lot of Spider-Man's biggest villains. So I thought that was interesting that they would drop that name in there, showing that. Yeah, go ahead.
No, random question. Does Raven Institute have anything to do with Mystique's character?
No, it is.
Okay.
It's Ravencroft. It's one word.
Okay.
So yeah, it is a completely different thing. But no, that's a fair connection to me. But another name on that list, and Ben, it's funny that you brought up the Netflix series in Daredevil, because we see an M. Kemp. So obviously, I'm doing my research, looking through where these connections could be, and there was a Michael Kemp that appeared in, and this is, by the way, largely a list of names that would be involved in some sort of shady business, some sort of organized crime. Michael Kemp is a prisoner at Rikers Island in Netflix's Daredevil series that Matt Murdock and Foggy Nelson actually represented. So another interesting connection there if we're throwing Kingpin into this.
This seems like an upcoming article on laughingplace.com.
Very well could be, yes. Keep an eye out for that after Marvel time. But so yeah, there's lots of connections here going on. Lots of interesting stuff in this episode. And then on top of that, none of it came at the expense of the story. It's just incredibly fun. They keep the Christmas element going. It's hilarious. It's action-packed. It had everything you want in a Marvel series.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just sad it's over until next week.
I know. And I'll just throw this out there. I don't know how much truth there is to this, but rumor has it there's a post-credit scene in next week's episode. So we'll see.
You cut out. What? I missed it. You cut out.
Oh no! I said, and sorry, I had to mess with you a little bit. No, rumor is there's a post-credit scene at the end of next week's episode. So we'll see. Maybe something big coming next week too. Yeah. Any other thoughts on this week's episode? I mean, it was so much fun. I'm probably going to watch it again today at some point.
Yeah, I was thinking about doing the same thing.
I'm just enjoying the ride.
Yeah. Well, yeah, definitely counting down the days till next week's episode. Really, really love this week's. But let's jump into some Marvel news. And jumping back into the movie side of the MCU, we learned that, I think as expected, for me at least, we're going to get more Spider-Man movies with Tom Holland at the center of them. I know there was talk of this being a trilogy. I feel like that's sort of they're out for not having to put the word home in the title in the future.
Like a different director or different, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it could be a lot of different, creative aspects to it. But yeah, Tom Holland will be getting more Tom Holland movies in the future in the MCU, which you can breathe a sigh of relief there. There's no hard deals in place just yet, but that is the idea. Is they want Tom Holland back. Tom Holland wants to continue to play Spider-Man because why wouldn't he? So, so yeah, that's just some good news on that.
He saw Tobey Maguire's career trajectory.
Ooh, shots fired at Tobey Maguire. So yeah, that is some good news on the Spider-Man front. And speaking of hopefully good news, did you guys get your Spider-Man tickets?
Yes. It was quite an ordeal. It was 2 hours. We were online refreshing pages, trying on 3 different browsers, and we were on mobile and we were on desktop and different sites. And finally I was in line at AMC and it was 14 minutes to go, and then it jumped to an hour, and then all of a sudden it started moving again, and then we'd get to select our seats and then they'd say that it wasn't available. Then we were trying to check out on another site and everything goes through, but there's no way to make a payment. So it was crazy, but we got our tickets.
So I have a complicated story on this.
Okay.
When they announced tickets were going on sale, I wondered if they were, if they had showtimes posted. So I went to the Regal app and I saw, oh, they have showtimes. And I was like, oh, I can buy tickets. And then I was like, no, I should wait in case something is announced and I'm seeing it some other place or I'm going. So I didn't buy it. I was at a screening that night. The tickets became available for something else. And then I see you guys in the chat and I was like, oh, I need to try and get tickets. So I spent an hour trying to do it. I got to, and I couldn't get the Regal app to work. So I got the AMC app to kind of work. So I was like, okay, I'll go 45 minutes away to see this movie. And then I would get through the queue and then I couldn't purchase it after all that. And so I was like, screw it. I'm just going to go to bed and, I'll see it when I see it. I don't have time for this anymore. I wake up at 2 a.m. and I was like, oh, well, maybe now. I go on the app and I go to Regal. I go to the showtime I originally wanted. Plenty of seats still available. And I buy 2 seats. And I'm like, I wasted all that time. And I should have just waited for the craziness to drive down. Because I'm not in LA or New York. It's not as rabid fandom here. It's not hard to usually get the Thursday night shows. So I was like, I'm mad at myself for staying up as late as I did trying to get Spider-Man tickets.
No, we kind of felt that way too, because the theater we wanted to go to didn't have any Thursday showings, and then their Friday and Saturday seats weren't showing, or there weren't seats showing up for those either. But then the next morning, sure enough, everything looked beautiful. Everything was working, and everything, there were Thursday showtimes, so we probably could have waited too. And yeah, like Ben was saying, where he lives, I know there's a lot of fans here, and I know when we've gone to Star Wars or the other Avengers movies, there have been you've had full theaters, but we haven't had an issue with getting seats, and so we probably could have waited.
Yeah, it was much simpler for me personally, simply because
you didn't have to do anything.
Yeah, no, my wife took it completely upon herself to stay up until midnight to try and buy tickets. Fought with the websites until 1 in the morning. Finally got some tickets. Went to sleep. Woke up first thing in the morning and checked a theater much closer, and tickets were available. So she just bought them then anyway. So probably should have skipped the whole midnight attempt anyway. But so yeah, it was very easy for me. It was great. But so yeah, moral of the story here though is it was an ordeal trying to get Spider-Man tickets, and this is it's been reported that this is the biggest pre-sale since Avengers Endgame. So no secret, this is going to be a huge movie, and it's really exciting to see something like this going on again.
I will say I feel bad for Cinemark because they couldn't even get any like their whole like it wasn't even close. And so like they lost like how many more tickets would they have sold if it was not miserable? And at a time when like, this is a big deal to them.
Right. Yeah, that's very true. But at the same time, I do feel like they'll probably still manage to sell those tickets. I think they'll fill up just about every theater they possibly have. So I just think, this movie is gonna have some crazy numbers in the opening couple weekends for sure. Speaking of Spider-Man tickets, AMC was giving out NFTs to the first 84,000 Stubs members, I believe was the number. So, basically when you buy your tickets, you get a JPEG or something. So
I don't know, because it almost sounds like it comes after, like when the movie comes out, because we were signed into our account and didn't get anything unless we managed to miss that first 84,000. But it almost sounded like it's coming once after you've actually seen the movie, then you'll get it. But
okay.
But yeah, we'll report back.
I'm curious about the value of an NFT with 84,000 being given out for free, but so maybe make it a background on your phone or something.
Right.
On the park side of things, Hawkeye wasn't just on Disney Plus. He's also in Avengers Campus. They're also in Avengers Campus, we'll say. Both of them. With the new, yet unnamed show. They're still just calling it Avengers Assemble in the Disneyland app. But it is very much, very different from what we've seen from past Avengers Assemble shows. Have you guys gotten a chance to watch this yet?
Not in person, and I haven't looked for anything online.
No, we haven't been lucky enough to see it in person yet either, because on the East Coast. But watching the video, it's awesome. I love that they are adding a holiday twist to the show and new characters. It's the villains of it are the Tracksuit Mafia, which obviously adds a layer of comedy to it. It is so much fun. I highly recommend checking out the video, which you can find on our YouTube channel and on laughingplace.com as well. I can't wait to see. Just every time you go back to Avengers Campus, there's something different, including a whole new show in this case. So really, really cool to see.
Can we interrupt Marvel time for 1 minute?
Yeah.
We have some breaking Disney news that I think is important. The board of directors has announced that Susan Arnold will be named the chairman of the board effective December 31st. She's been on the board 14 years, and been the independent lead director since 2018, and is succeeding Bob Iger as chairman of the board when he departs the company at the end of the year. Bob Iger says, Susan Arnold is an incredibly esteemed executive whose wealth of experience, unwavering integrity, and expert judgment has been invaluable to the company since she first joined the board in 2007. Having most recently served as independent lead director, Susan is the perfect choice for chairman of the board, and I'm confident the company is well positioned for continued success under her guidance and leadership. It has been a distinct honor to work with Susan and our many other talented directors, and I'm incredibly grateful for the support and wise counsel they have provided during my tenure. And then Ms. Arnold wanted to say, on behalf of the board, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to Bob Iger for his extraordinary leadership over the past decade and a half. Bob has led Disney to amazing heights, both creatively and financially, with his clear strategic vision for delivering high-quality branded storytelling, embracing cutting-edge technology, and expanding internationally. And he's left an indelible mark on the Walt Disney Company that will be felt for generations to come. As I step into this new role as chairman of the board, I would look forward to continuing to serve the long-term interests of Disney's shareholders and working closely with CEO Bob Chapek as he builds upon the company's century-long legacy of creative excellence and innovation.
Interesting.
So Susan Arnold replacing Bob Iger in the other half of his job.
Cool. I am in no position to add any context to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's, exciting Disney news there, breaking on Marvel time, because we do a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Feels ridiculous to bring this image back up at this time now, but here you go.
That's actually Susan Arnold.
I've never seen Susan Arnold and Spider-Man in the same place. So Spider-Man has appeared not only in box office, but also on Marvel's Avengers, the popular video game. So that just dropped, what was that, yesterday. It was November 30th. So you can now play as Spider-Man. There's a whole War Table deep dive explaining all of the details of his gameplay, all of different moves and the gear and stuff that you can use with Spider-Man. Also, as well as several other updates to the game in general. So you can check that out on laughingplace.com. I haven't played Marvel's Avengers in a little while now. I'm quite a few DLCs behind, but now that Spider-Man's in it, I might just have to jump back into it. Especially since now, too, Clint Barton and Kate Bishop were added to it a while back, and I haven't gotten a chance to play as them. And now my interest has been reinvigorated in those characters too. So there's just a lot to jump back into with that game. And the great thing about that game too is all the DLC is free. Like you don't have to go back in and pay $15, $30 for each new piece that comes out. So, you can jump in and play all this. For me, jumping back in now would be like adding a whole new game to everything I played before. So that's really cool.
That is cool.
Bekah, you are probably best equipped to handle this one.
Oh, hopefully. We do have some new online exclusive Build-A-Bears, and it's, as you see there, Wanda or Scarlet Witch and Vision. They're in their original costumes, also their Halloween costumes from WandaVision. So it's pretty cool. They're $35 a piece, I believe, and they're like 16 inches tall. But yeah, I think it's kind of fun that Build-A-Bear has, like, they have a whole collection of Marvel characters or Marvel style characters that you can bring home through their bears. Do you have any of these?
Jess actually has a New York Yankees one, so that's pretty cool. But no, all I can hear in my head looking at any Build-A-Bear ever is Tony Stark's voice saying, "Honestly, until this exact moment, I thought you were a Build-A-Bear." And then Rocket replying, "Maybe I am." These are really awesome. I love the Halloween costumes thrown on them. These just released though, like last week, right? Or early this week?
Yes, they're brand new. And again, they're online exclusive, so you cannot get them in stores. But yeah, brand new.
Pretty interesting that came so far after WandaVision. I wonder if this will lead to getting more versions of Marvel characters from the MCU series, which would be pretty cool. Be a nice new collectible. And we'll finish off with some comic news. We found out that the finale of the Peach Momoko Demon Days arc will be coming in March. This will be Demon Days Blood Feud. More just incredible artwork. There's a variant cover. There's a cover for the whole Demon Days graphic novel that we'll be getting as well. Excuse me. With another great cover. And then as well as some new character designs you can see the art for on laughingplace.com. We haven't talked about, I think we just did the first issue of Demon Days, correct, on here? And we didn't follow through on that one. But that is one that I'm definitely looking forward to going through on Marvel Unlimited once the whole series is on there. And finally, just as a personal fan favorite, I had to talk about this one. Jeff the Landshark got a Thanksgiving Infinity comic, wrapping up the ongoing Infinity comic series for Jeff over the last few months. And we found out that we're going to get a continuation of that in 2022, which I'm very excited about. These are all on Marvel Unlimited. You can check them all out now. They are fantastic. Each one takes you maybe 30 seconds to read. Like there's a couple of word bubbles here and there, and that's about it. It's mostly just Jeff the Landshark being adorable. So highly recommend checking that out.
And then we got some breaking Marvel Comics news.
Ooh.
Let me see if I can pull it up.
All right. I will remove Jeff as much as it hurts me to do so.
Let's see here. Share screen. Share. Ooh, that's new. Chrome tab. Here we go. Now, this is a comic we didn't read this week, but appears the Swordmaster, who has taken a more prominent MCU role as of late, is no more. And you can learn more in Doctor Strange, White Fox. On sale now.
Ooh.
Oh, hang on. Let me.
Oh,
There we go.
okay. There we go.
Okay. Got it. So, yeah, that was, I noticed, looking through the comics that were released this week, there were so many. I mean, we do 5 every week, but there were a good 8 or 9 where I was like, oh man, I want to read that one.
Yeah.
So it was a tough week to choose, and for good reason. Like all 5 comics we talked about, I thought were very good this week. So, yeah. So just another interesting story arc spinning out of this the death of Doctor Strange, which I can't wait to get more into. The finale of that ongoing series, because it looks like a lot of fun stuff is coming out of it. So definitely exciting.
Very cool.
All right. Well, that does it for another Marvel Time. Do you guys have anything else before we wrap things up? Any more breaking news that
I think we're good. I think
Right.
I think naming a chairperson is enough for one day. But it looks like there may be.
Oh,
So this isn't theme park. I mean, this isn't Marvel, but it looks like they evacuated Rock and Roller Coaster on smoke because of smoke.
My goodness.
interesting.
Well,
I guess the 3 of us cannot be on this show at the same time together.
I guess we
We'll
should.
have to just keep me on Tuesdays.
Rock and Roller Coaster starring Aerosmith is temporarily closed, so this is not inconceivable.
Interesting. We'll have to look into that a little bit, I guess.
That explains why Disney Communications didn't respond to my email. They have bigger fish to fry. Yeah.
Right. Kidder has some information regarding Laughing Place's schedule coming up for us, so you can get Disney Trivia Live. I know I missed trivia last night. I'll be back. I'll be watching on Saturday.
I don't know that Disney Trivia Live is happening on Saturday.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Kidder.
More breaking news
next Tuesday.
Okay, there you go.
We should have Jeremiah live from Epcot a little bit later today. We don't have an exact time because he's out in the field, but we will have him at some point.
Very cool. Festival of the Holidays going on. I was just there last night. It's a lot of fun. So you can check that out. Zacks of Life. We have a new episode out right now, breaking down the first 2 episodes of Hawkeye and drafting Marvel characters you would want to invite to Thanksgiving. So that was ridiculous and fun. Good luck trying to come up with a list for that one, because it's nonsense. But thank you, everyone. We will be back with more Marvel Time next week, and we'll see you all soon.